From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is a weekly podcast about Sean fucking up the intro that I tend to ramble off on to start this podcast. We are, of course, proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find all of our old episodes, all of our new episodes, and all of our upcoming episodes, as well as all the other great members of the You Run Podcast Network at yourunpodcast.com. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. He screwed up the intro several times today, and I appreciate that. And his name is Sean. Sean, how are you doing today?
If you was a moron, you could almost admire it.
It's Michael Parks, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The one and only Michael Parks.
Glad to hear it. Well, there's two Michael Parks by the time we get to the end of this, but there's one in this one. But what are we talking about? Doesn't matter. We'll get to that in like 15, 20 minutes. That being said, John, it's, at the time of this recording, we're on the holiday break. I'm not sure what day it is. I don't know if you know what day it is, but what have you been watching over the last several days?
Well, it hasn't been a break for me, John, because I've been working, but you've been working too, haven't you?
I didn't work today.
So
I did
very nice.
Today,
very nice. Yeah. So I've got three things for you that I'm going to talk about.
What do you do when you have the day off? You go to the pub.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. So the first thing I'll talk about is on Netflix. It's called Breakdown 1975. And it is a documentary that they say is chronicling the movies from about 1975, because they do talk about stuff from 76 and 74. It's a weird nebulous time frame. They say 1975. They're talking about basically like the Watergate scandal up until, I don't know, Jimmy Carter, roughly. But they talk about how the movies of that time were a reflection of culture and politics, how movies from like the mid 70s are breaking out of the studio mold and they're kind of forging their own path. They have a bunch of talking head interviews with people like Scorsese and Oliver Stone, Ellen Burstyn, and Patton Oswalt for some reason. And it's narrated by Jodie Foster.
Weird.
Yeah, he has some
what was he
commentary
like
about the 70s and cinema.
I don't know how old Patton Oswalt is, but what would he be like?
I think he's just
at most in the 70s.
Yeah, I think he's just like an aficionado, like a cinemaphile or something. But anyway, they just need somebody. They had somebody else Seth Rogen. They also have Seth Rogen for some reason who laughs a couple times. And it's like, cool. But anyways,
Patton Oswalt is, for the record,
yes.
He's 56.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Yeah, he would have been teenager.
He would have been
teen.
Not
I
even.
Think it said, a 10-year-old.
I think it said 69 is when he was born.
69. Sweet. 420, bro. Yeah, so it basically, like Scorsese says, in not so many words, I'll just paraphrase, he says something to the effect of like, 1975 was the Wild West. If the studios were in such shambles that you could go to a studio and pitch your idea, and if they didn't want it, another one would take it, because it was just, they needed to make money. So they weren't living off of Marvel characters, right, like they do now. But anyways, it was interesting. It's a little bit flashy. It gives you a little bit of whiplash because it's jerking back and forth between all these different movies that they talk about. And it's really not that many. I would say there's probably like 20 movies that they talk about, but they'll cut and edit scenes together to make them look like something from All the President's Men is right next to Taxi Driver. And then that goes into, they'll show Travis Bickle and that'll cut into the Talking Heads singing Psycho Killer or something, just something kind of not great, but it was.
Sounds very Netflixy.
Yeah, I don't know how much their involvement was, but it was like a retrospective. The thing that I appreciated, and I just, because it's so close to New Year's when we're recording this, I turned on ABC just for a few minutes because they were doing like a 2025 in retrospective kind of thing. And it's all just talking head, but like unfunny quote unquote comedians that are just like talking about celebrities, which I could not fucking care less about who Zendaya is, that her and Tom Holland are, still in love. Like I really fucking couldn't care. So at least that didn't have.
I don't even know I know who Tom Holland is. I don't know who
Zendaya.
Zendaya?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Jeez, John, give it the times. But yeah, so it was fine. If you're like a cinemaphile, if you're interested in cinema, it was entertaining at least I take these kind of documentaries and I find movies that they talk about, and that just kind of gives me more ammunition or more movies to watch that maybe I wasn't thinking of or I knew the name of but didn't know what it was about. So I find those kind of interesting. I watched a second documentary within the last few days. It's called It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley. And it's a documentary about the musician Jeff Buckley, basically his life. He garnered a lot of critical success, but never really commercial success. And he was bigger, of course, in the UK and other countries. Never really got super popular in the US. They talk about his relationship with his father, Tim Buckley, who was also a musician. Basically, when Jeff's mother got pregnant with him, Tim Buckley wasn't even around. They were high school sweethearts, his mom and his dad. And Tim Buckley left to go perform music before Jeff was ever born. And he really didn't know his father. He only spent a little bit of time with him when he was really small. And so they talk with Jeff Buckley's, some of his former girlfriends. They talk about his recording of his only album at the time of his death, Grace. And they talk about how he wasn't really, like, he had been performing, you know, playing guitar, singing through high school. He was like kind of a music nerd, and nobody had really known of him outside of the small towns that he played at, like the local bars or whatever, until he played at his father's memorial. And that's when everyone was like, holy shit, this kid actually has some talent. And there was just a bidding war to get him signed up.
Weird place to get discovered.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it was really odd. They didn't know what to expect because they had never heard him sing.
Your dad's dead.
Yeah.
But, do you want a record deal?
Yeah. How about you come? Well, they heard him sing, but they had never heard him sing before this performance. Like before him doing this tribute, this memorial concert, he just sang one song with another, like a backing band. And that's where he got his big break. They talk about how he played in like a local coffee house to kind of write his first album. He had to write, he put this, I got to write 30 songs. Even though his first album is a lot of covers and original music. I think there's like, I don't know how many tracks, but I feel like it's like 50-50 originals and covers.
I would imagine a first album would be somewhere between 10 and 15 tracks, 15 being on the high end. Unless you're like a band like Operation Ivy that's like, fuck it, all 30 tracks, one album, then we break up.
And they're each a minute long. But
pretty much.
Yeah, so Jeff Buckley, I think they allude to the fact that he was bipolar. He ended up passing away at 30. He drowned. He basically just kind of walked into the river, and he was driving his car. He pulls over. Yeah, he just pulls over. He sees the river. He's like, I'm going to go for a swim. And he just never came back. It's a good documentary. If you like Jeff, like I didn't know a lot about Jeff Buckley. I knew his music. I knew some of it. I grew up around the time when he was getting popular, and I think I had a girlfriend that kind of liked some of his music.
I used to play him in the record store a lot when I worked there for like 2 years, and we had like a stack of like pre-approved, like you can play this shit, because it wasn't a cool record store. It was a, corporate record store.
Yeah.
And that was one that was an easy one to put on, and just, it was good enough that I could say I like it, but not anything that it never hit a point where I'm like, oh my God,
I need to own this.
Get this off. Yeah.
Okay.
Or the other way, where I need this to never be on.
Inverse.
In contrast, my closing album, like the Friday at 10 o'clock, I Want to Go Home album, was Swedish Yodeling. That would go on about 4 or 5 clicks higher than everything. That one went to 11, where the other ones were at like, I think 6 or 7.
Oh, nice.
No pun intended, is where they were supposed to be.
My girlfriend, like I said, we like some of the songs, but her and I listened to the same music, so I don't think I'd ever listened to his entire CD, but it was a good music doc for sure. Kind of lays out all the stuff that Jeff Buckley's about. And then lastly, a non-documentary thing that I watched, I finally got around to watch To Live and Die in LA, which is William Friedkin film, and it plays like a film noir. Basically, the short version of the story is Willem Dafoe is a counterfeiter. He's an artist and a counterfeiter, but he's selling fake bills. And William Peterson, who is the guy he's probably best known as being the guy from CSI. He is a Secret Service agent who's trying to catch Willem Dafoe after his partner dies, trying to catch Willem Dafoe on his own. Dean Stockwell's in it, John Turturro, and Steve James from American Ninja fame. And they're all in the film. The one thing I think is kind of interesting is that the soundtrack is entirely done by Wang Chung, the band Wang Chung. So everybody have fun tonight. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. Those guys. It's weird that they would pick Wang Chung, that William Friedkin picks Wang Chung to do the music for this film, but it fits at the same time, because I think I read that Friedkin was like, he didn't know anything about Wang Chung, but he's like, these guys are making popular music that is like unlike anything else anyone else is making. So signed these guys up to make this album. And in the movie, I don't know if you've seen it before, there's like a 10-minute chase scene.
I have a follow-up question for you at some point.
Okay.
Before we switch gears.
There is a 10-minute car chase scene that I'm kind of like, why is this in here? Like, it just keeps going on and going on and going on. And you're like, did they hear that movies are supposed to be an hour and 30 minutes? So they added a 10-minute car chase. It's like an hour and 50-ish minutes. So they were a little bit over their allotted time. And the ending is such a, like, what the fuck ending that I liked it because the ending was so just kind of out there. I'd recommend it. Rumor has it that because the movie's about counterfeiting and fake money, that there was a bunch of bills that got leaked and got spent. And the Secret Service actually came to talk to William Friedkin about it because they burned a bunch. They said they made like $1 million in counterfeit money over the course of making the movie, and they burned a ton of it, but some of it just kind of leaked out. And I thought that was interesting. What's your follow up?
So this isn't one that needs to be on the to-do list like immediately, but that's one that would be fun to talk about because I don't think I've seen that since sometime in high school or something like that. It's been a while. Like, if you had to pick, and this is my hot take one, do you prefer To Live and Die in LA or The Exorcist? Because, I mean, shocker, I prefer To Live and Die in LA, but I have yet to have to talk about my opinions on The Exorcist. So,
yeah, I mean, they're such totally different movies. I've only seen The Exorcist a couple times, but I think I would watch To Live and Die in LA before I'd watch The Exorcist again.
I'm glad to hear that. The Exorcist is one of those movies, like, I understand why it's held in the regard that it is, but it's also one of those movies, and I think you have plenty of popular movies like this. For me, it's one of those movies like, I don't ever need to see this fucking movie again. I've seen it way too many times. I'm good on The Exorcist. And I don't know if we actually had this on recording or we're just talking off mic with it. Like, I'd rather watch Exorcist 2, or I'd definitely rather watch 3, just because they're not the first one that's been just beat to death.
Yeah, and I always get, God, there's like 10,000 Ways to Die in LA? Is it, or 10,000 Ways to Die?
Something like that, yeah.
With
Live and Die in LA blends in with one of those that you're talking about.
8 Million Ways to Die. I always get those two titles confused for whatever reason. That 8 Million Ways to Die is with Jeff Bridges and Rosanna Arquette. I can't, for the life of me, I don't know how I get them confused, but I always do. So now that I've finally
I'm not sure I've actually seen the Jeff Bridges one. I know I've seen To Live and Die in LA, but I know I watched it specifically because I was like, oh, this guy directed The Exorcist. Like, I have no good reason for this, but for whatever reason in my thought process, William Friedkin is like bound to whatever. Shows how much I give a shit. He's bound to The Exorcist, and I don't think of anything else that he does. And I forgot that he did To Live and Die in LA until about 5 minutes ago when you brought it up.
He did Cruising. He did French Connection. He did a lot of very different movies. Blue Chips. Did you know he directed Blue Chips? He directed Jade, for Christ's sake.
That's probably why I'm not that familiar with his body of work, is because doesn't, and that's to his credit, he doesn't stick to one genre.
Yeah.
You know, he's
kind of all over the place. Right.
But
yeah, but that's what I watch.
That's good or bad. So I kind of went the opposite way of you. I have 2 movies I brought today and a documentary. Should I start with the doc or start with the movies?
I mean, start with the doc. I started with docs. You start with doc.
All right. So I'll also start on Netflix because that's where my doc was. You've already had to suffer through some of this, but I'll tell you what, they made a documentary about John Elway's teeth, and God damn it, I watched it as soon as I fucking could.
You watched every one of those fence posts. Whitewashed.
Every single one of them. Never once took a kick through them, unfortunately. I was waiting for that. There's a new documentary about John Elway that's out. That is on Netflix. It's just called Elway. Really catchy title. You know, they didn't put a lot into that. I think I already said it, but it primarily covers his playing career from when he was from when he was in college up through the end of his tenure with the Broncos. It touches on his being their GM, super briefly. It's like sneeze. He was a GM and won another Super Bowl and the end, which I'm fine with. Although I would, after watching that Hard Knocks where they did the off-season one, with all the GM stuff, I actually think I would have enjoyed watching him turn the different knobs and twist the different levers or whatever to make a Super Bowl team that could have been different and interesting. Maybe that's a separate documentary. Elway 2, Electric Boogaloo. But for the most part, I mean, it's like every other sports documentary. It's like, here's John Elway. He's really good at football. He loses a lot at football, but he's still really good. Eventually he wins. My favorite part of this whole documentary, aside from some of the fashion choices, which is like just steeped in like 80s and 90s, like schmagma, like head to toe in all the best and worst ways.
Is that like
accentuated
burning,
by,
is that like burning dick cheese? Smagma?
yes.
That's like the combination.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll go with that.
All right.
Aside from that, the guy who they need to make a documentary about is whoever the fuck is the kicker in his first, so I guess AFC conference championship game, because it was to go to the Super Bowl. So they're playing in Cleveland in presumably January. I'm assuming it was still 16 weeks when he played. I'm not sure when they went from when they changed it off the top of my head, but it's cold. It's snowing in Cleveland. So it's end of the season. And here comes this fucker to kick a field goal, and he's got one bare foot, and I'm like, is this dude gonna kick barefoot? And sure enough, sure as shit he does. You know, they still lose the game, spoilers. But I was like, I don't really give a shit about this fucking like hot shit quarterback. Get me a documentary about this barefoot kicker running out there in Midwest winter with no shoe on, kicking a hard ass leather ball. Like, I would think that your best case scenario is you get frostbite. Like, your worst case scenario, does it like shatter your foot? Like, does your foot freeze and like you hit this leather? It could be so much more fun.
Did he make the field goal?
You know, I think he made the field goal, but they still lost the game.
But he broke his
because I know
foot.
they didn't. Or did they go to the Super Bowl? And
they went to
shows
the
how
Super
good
Bowl, and I got
documentary
beat
it is.
up because I wore a Denver Broncos hat. I remember that in elementary school.
This early?
Yeah,
This was like early, and this is like his second or third year as a
Yeah.
Bronco. Like,
Yeah, it was early 80s.
The years he won, the years he won were like late 80s, early 90s. Something, I don't know. It was like when Shannon Sharp. Maybe it was 90s, but
Yeah, it was early 90s.
that sounds right. Then you got beat up for wearing a Broncos hat.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't, because kids are stupid. Denver Broncos, they suck. They lost the Super Bowl. Boop, boop, boop. I was like, oh, this sucks.
It's a pretty trivial reason to get beat up, but okay. So on the movie side, so you watched this one probably months back at this point, but I just got around to it. I sat down and watched Weapons, and I have opinions. No one's going to agree with them, but I'm used to that. So this might be because we're talking about a Tarantino movie this week, but there was a lot of me that I was like, what's with this like Pulp Fiction style storytelling? And by that, I just mean they're taking different linear parts of the story and kind of cobbling it together in a non-linear way. And actually, I'll give it credit. Like, it's one of those movies, like, after being a couple days away from it, I'm like, no, they did a pretty good job, like, connecting the dots from A, B, and C in this weird story. The thing I will say that I found myself kind of feeling at the end of it, because I do think it's a slow burn movie. Like, I think the idea is this is going to be a slow burn up until the last 10, 15 minutes, something like that.
Mhm.
For me personally, I don't know that the buildup was worth the release on this one. Like, I don't know if I would go as far to call it third act, but like the payoff in it, when when the bad guy gets the bad guy shit, it's satisfying in the sense that they get theirs and it's fucked up and all that shit. But for everything else that you have to sit through to get up to that, I just felt like, I don't know. The only note I wrote is this movie is a fucking slog. And then I follow it up with last 10 minutes or so is kind of wild. So I don't know. I don't want to go as far to call it a pacing problem, because it does do a good job of telling the story it wants to tell and keeping like everything somehow on track from a storytelling perspective. I'm just not sure I found it interesting enough to really hold my attention, which sucks. I don't know. It's been a couple of months for you. Did you have that, or I don't even remember now?
No, I thought it went pretty well. I didn't have any problem with the pacing. I didn't. It wasn't the best movie of the year.
Pacing's probably not the right word, but I digress. So.
I didn't find it boring at any part. Like, I wasn't on the. I think that, honestly, I feel like I was thinking, like, when is something fucked up's going to happen? You kind of keep waiting for that and waiting for it. And really, the fucked up things do happen. But I think I was, the way, looking back on it, it's been a couple months now. I feel like I was like, when is the next fucked up thing going to happen? Like, kind of on the edge of my seat waiting for that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a problem with it. Like I said, not the best movie of the year. Wouldn't be my movie of 2025. Like, I don't know what would be, but it was middle of the pack. It was middling. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad.
Well, for whatever it's worth, I did tell my wife, like almost as soon as I was done, like, you would probably like this. So I can absolutely see and get why people would like it. I think it's more of a, this just isn't for me type of movie.
Sure.
Whatever that's worth. I do think it got a lot right. Josh Brolin's great in it. If anything, like, I would have liked to have seen more of him, or like, not to I don't know if this counts as a spoiler, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, each character that we're following through this movie gets their own like vignette in the middle of storytelling, and that's how they're breaking it up and like piecing this story together. He's like the one main character that doesn't have his own like arc in there as far as what they, go over and show as to like previously on weapons, and they cut back and start their own little individual like storytelling with it.
Right.
He might have been one that would have been more interesting than a couple other characters that are in there, because there's a couple characters that are in there that get their own little like storyline that, although they wrap the story together, they, by the end of the movie, like the third act where shit hits the fan, like they're just kind of gone.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't like that director because he did Barbarian, and I still fucking hate that movie too. So
Could be
I don't know.
some residual bias. It's possible.
I'm all about the residuals. So, and then on the much better side, in the like horrible fucking movie that I had a blast watching, I watched the movie Bloodbeat from 1983. So Bloodbeat, have you seen, are you familiar with this at all?
I'm not.
Okay. So this is the IMDb at the top of the thing, so we read it first
Right.
thing.
Never quite sure if that's a storyline or the plot.
Yeah, whatever it is. A young woman accompanies her boyfriend to his family's rural home in Wisconsin for Christmas, where the spirit of a Japanese samurai begins wreaking havoc on them. I was sold on that alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like it.
the best I can say with this, because I don't want to go on too long. This is on Tubi right now. This is an easy one. Like, if you're curious about this, waste an hour and 20 minutes. I heard movies were about that long, and check it out. What I will say is, this is one of those movies that do you ever watch a movie that's like so bad, but then it throws some other random fucking bullshit in there and shifts gears where you're like, this is still bad, but what's next?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those. It is moderately ambitious for its $12.67 budget that it probably had. And I don't often refer to a third-party review for this part of the show, but I think this guy, Josh Lewis on Letterboxd, summed it up really well. He says, this is a no-budget regional slasher shot in someone's backyard in Wisconsin that by the time it reaches its credits, it's a full-blown, experimental, surreal, doom-laden synth dreamscape involving samurai ghosts, telepathic battles, and it's absolutely fucking insane. And that is correct. And the only reason I'm including them, like, I don't think I could sum this movie up better if I tried. Bloodbeat, it's got some boobs in it. It's got a samurai in it. It's in Wisconsin for whatever reason. You want to see something stupid and fun, go check out Bloodbeat.
Here you go.
So, yeah.
Nice.
And again, I read that description. I'm like, I got about halfway through this movie. I'm like, this really should have been an episode movie. Like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to watch this again, but this really feels like a crummy movie March type of edition. So, but that's usually your job to curate that one.
Yeah,
so.
I've got a whole list. It's already planned.
Well, thankfully, this will be in the notes for this episode. So if you being you, Sean, or you being anyone listening wants to go back and listen to Bloodbeat or watch Bloodbeat, whatever, you can do it.
Yeah, and it'll be free because it's on Tubi.
It will be. I imagine if it's on Tubi, it will be free probably on YouTube or somewhere else. I don't think this is the kind of movie I don't think anyone's making money off this movie at any point in time in perpetuity. So yeah, that's all I got for right now. I think this is a good time to kind of pause, take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Kill Bill Volume 1.
Hey, if you love unpredictable conversations, weird hobbies, TV obsessions, music rabbit holes, and all the stuff you didn't even know you cared about, you've got to check out WTF Are You Doing? That's the podcast where hosts Hearn Dizzle and E. Biddy just talk about whatever the f*** they're into. One week it's reality shows. The next it's ranking fast food mascots. and sometimes it's just pure creative chaos. You can check them out and all the other great shows on the You Run Podcast Network at yourunpodcast.com.
All right, so we're back in. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the movie Kill Bill Volume 1. We're not doing this because Quentin Tarantino's an asshole. We already knew that. We're not doing this because Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair is out. We're doing this because we had nothing better to do, apparently. If you're interested in hearing our thoughts on Kill Bill Volume 2, stay tuned. That will be something we'll be talking about next week. But for now, we're going to start with Kill Bill Volume 1. As per usual, we're going to start with another third-party review, 2-in-1 episode. Ooh, look out. This one, though, is from somebody named Nobody. And Nobody says, Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie. This attempt at an age genre doesn't work for me. He gives it 0.5 star out of 5 stars.
Okay.
So, with the spirit of Nobody flowing through your veins, Sean, please tell us what Kill Bill Volume 1 is all about.
All right. So for that, we go over to the IMDb website.com and we type in the words Kill Bill and VOL1. And that brings up a title. It's from 2003. It has an R rating. It's an hour and 51 minutes long. It gets an 8.2 out of 10 with 1.3 million ratings. Another one on the popularity scale, man. This is a travesty. It is 325, which I think means it dropped from some number. It's down 42 from some other number. And we read this thing at the top. Never quite sure what it is, but you know, I always say, Grandma always used to say they wouldn't put it on top if you weren't supposed to read it first. It says, after waking from a 4-year coma, a former assassin wreaks vengeance on the team of assassins who betrayed her. And if we scroll on down to the storyline, this one comes care of Miramax, and it says, 4 years after taking a bullet in the head at her own wedding, the bride emerges from a coma and decides it's time for payback with a vengeance. Having been gunned down by her former boss, Bill, and his deadly squad of international assassins, it's a kill-or-be-killed fight that she didn't start, but is determined to finish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank God that Miramax told us what this movie is about. Before we get too much into this movie, there's a Brinks truck worth of people in this movie. Sean, who would you like to highlight for this particular film?
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight a few. First off, we're going to start with the bride herself, played by Uma Thurman. You may know her from Kill Bill 1 and 2, Pulp Fiction, Batman and Robin, The Avengers, Not That Avengers, and most recently, I didn't realize that she was in Dexter Resurrection. We have David Carradine. He plays Bill. He was in Death Race 2000, Kung Fu, Q, the Winged Serpent, Lone Wolf McQuaid, and a ton of other garbage movies. We have Michael Madsen, who plays Bud. He was in The Hateful Eight, Reservoir Dogs, Species, The Doors, Thelma and Louise, and of course, one of John's favorites, Monster Mash. We have Michael Parks. He plays Earl McGraw. You may know him from Planet Terror, Red State, From Dusk Till Dawn, and we talked about him in Tusk and Nightmare Beach. We've got a few other people that you may recognize, like Lucy Liu, Daryl Hannah, Vivica A. Fox, and of course, I was going to say intolerable, the indispensable Sonny Chiba.
I was going to say, if you skip Sonny Chiba, I'm going to be a little upset. I do like that you chose to highlight Monster Mash because
That's your
Michael
favorite.
Madsen is Michael Madsen's kind of like my Dick Miller for you. Like, he's in a shit ton of stuff and he's kind of always in the ballpark of the same guy. And I always liked him for that.
Yeah.
But Monster Mash wouldn't be the one I would highlight.
I just knew that you loved that movie, so I had to put that. Monster Mash was a favorite of yours.
Was a disaster. So this movie's kind of interesting. Like, I think a lot of, for me, like, my opinions about Kill Bill Volume 1, a lot of that is kind of colored by the just massive fucking hype train that surrounded this movie. I mean, when this movie came out, and I'm sure you remember this too, I know I saw it in the theater. At that point, I was like very, we talked about my like, oh, I'm Martin Scorsese. I love all this shit. Like, I was very much so in that, like, I think I'm this independent cinephile, like, dipshit, like, phase. And maybe I still think that, maybe, I don't know. But I loved Tarantino's first 3 films. Like, I love the way that he uses the camera, the emphasis on dialogue that actually goes somewhere most of the time, and when it doesn't go somewhere, it's still entertaining, all that shit. This movie for me was the first time that, maybe this is going to piss someone off, I feel like Tarantino sold out. This is the first time this movie feels like a big budget Hollywood movie that Tarantino just put his like specks of paint on. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but how do you feel on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the movie that I saw in the height of my dislike for Quentin Tarantino. And I think it started with me, like, initially the reason Tarantino kind of pissed me off with this movie is that it was, and I'm sure he had a decision in it, but it wasn't up to him totally, is to split this movie into two pieces. Because I had been reading online forums. I mean, I wasn't like an Ain't It Cool News guy, but I would go and pick up, little articles and whatnot. And I knew that it was going to be this like 4-hour thing that he was going to put out. And when they decided to split it, I really respected the decision to release a 4-hour movie. Like that's how I think it should be done. And when they said,
I agree with you, shockingly.
Yeah.
Like, which is not my usual thing, but
right.
I agree with you on that. And spoilers, the runtime of this movie is not one of the things I have as a negative.
Yeah.
For whatever that's worth.
Same.
So,
but then when they were like, we're going to split it into two, I was like, this is a cash grab. This is bullshit. Like, and I also think that this movie, like, I knew that Tarantino's thing was to grab inspiration from other movie styles. Like every movie that he does is basically like, it's a pastiche of all these, well, not even so much, but it's a pastiche of all these different ideas. Yeah. An homage to to different like genres. But I feel like, to use your word, this movie to me was a ripoff. Like this is one of those movies, like at 26 years old, I felt annoyed that the general public thought Tarantino and his movies existed in a vacuum where he was the one that was solely coming up with ideas. Like I was the 26-year-old that was like the Lone Wolf and Cub, the Shogun Assassin guy, when they cut somebody and the blood sprays. And I was so into that. And when everybody was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever.
Believe me, I'm with you. And I know it's the second movie, but like when Pai Mei shows up in the next movie, I'm like, oh, that's the dude from blah, blah, blah. Or when Sonny Chiba shows up, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I 100% agree with you. And this is kind of almost hits that like Scream thing where it's like all of a sudden everyone was like, oh, I fucking love horror movies. Like, really? Didn't you just stuff me in a locker for liking Slumber Party Massacre 8 or some shit? Like, really? Like, because I also agree with you on that in the sense that, like, it's we haven't really covered a lot of this. I think Lone Wolf and Cub would probably, or Shogun Assassin, whichever we're calling it for the point of this, would be the like closest we got to that. But like, I love all that old, like the fact that this opens with the Shaw Brothers slide, for me, like I might as well just pull it out and start jerking off in the middle of the fucking theater. Like that for me is like, fuck yes, I love the Shaw Brothers stuff. So I had a bunch of that growing up, and I'm with you 100%. Like all the stuff like that's pulled from that is all shit that like hasn't been done before. Absolutely. Has it been done on this level? Maybe not, but I interrupted you and I apologize for that as I ramble on for 5 minutes, but there is very much so something that feels very ripped off about how much he borrows from really a whole subculture
in this
not just
movie
a genre
specifically.
Yeah.
And
Yes. I agree.
It took until Django Unchained and Hateful Eight for me to, well, no, Django Unchained. And then what came after Django? Was it Hateful Eight that was after Django?
I think Hateful Eight was after.
It definitely was after
Django, Hateful, and then Hollywood, I think.
Yeah.
But whatever.
It took me until Django to be like, okay, I'm kind of back. This Quentin Tarantino guy, maybe he knows a thing or two. Because, he was just the fast talking, coked out movie director guy that you were just like, what the fuck is this guy on about? Like what is wrong with this guy? So it took me a while to get back on thinking like, oh no, he actually, like, he's a student of film. So I can totally understand, but it feels very much like I said, the normies, for lack of a better term, that we're watching movies of this ilk. We're like, oh man, I can't believe Tarantino's awesome, man. I can't believe he came up with all this shit. It's like, bro, he didn't come up with any of this stuff. This is all like textbook. I watched a bunch of spaghetti westerns. I watched some samurai films and I made a movie.
Yep.
I watched a bunch of 70s exploitation martial arts films and I made a movie, and you're going to go see it, and it's going to make a shit ton of money.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Sounds like we took our positives and we haven't even got to positive shit. So
Yeah.
So I guess that's just a good place to any start. Like we had first impressions with it, and I think our first impression is both. We felt kind of ripped off, maybe kind of sort of. But let's lean into positives.
In a spiteful way for me. I mean, I can't speak for you.
This is true, like fucking nerd, like rage ways, I guess. But
yeah,
let's go with some of the positives on this, because I do think, although it sounds like we're gonna have things to jab at, this movie has plenty of positives to it as well. Once you get past that, so Sean, is there anything you liked about Kill Bill Volume 1?
Yeah, I mean, I think that regardless of all the things that happen in the movie, like one of my favorite scenes or sequences in the movie. So maybe we should just kind of preface this by saying Uma Thurman is the bride. She is set up on her wedding day. She gets beat up by all the assassins that are under David Carradine, aka Bill, which includes like Vivica A. Fox, which includes Daryl Hannah, which includes Lucy Liu, Michael Madsen. Am I forgetting?
That's it.
Okay.
No, that's it.
So,
well, Sophie's there, and then Bill is the fifth.
Right.
So,
and they end up,
he's a snake charmer. Yeah.
Yeah. And they end up trying to assassinate her on her wedding day. She says the bill is the bill. She says the bill is the baby's. She says the baby is Bill's. And that's when the gunshot goes off. She's basically spent 4 years recovering in this coma. One of my favorite scenes in this entire movie, out of all the things that happen in this movie, is that sequence from the start of when Daryl Hannah walks into the hospital singing or whistling into the hospital until there's like a pause where Bill says, hey, this isn't what we do. We don't like off people that are in comas. We don't off people that are unconscious. Give her a break. If she ever recovers, we'll come back and we'll take care of her. And then we have Michael Bowen, who is Buck, and consequently he likes to fuck. So he has a truck driver guy come and give him $75 to basically fornicate with unconscious bride. And that's when she wakes up. Well, she wakes up a little bit before that, and she has her vengeance. And then she's trying to like will herself. After she takes care of these guys, she escapes and gets to the pussy wagon, which is this like yellow F-150, lowered F-150 that you probably know. Most people probably know the pussy wagon as like the vehicle of this film because it was paraded quite a bit after.
Or from the Lady Gaga video.
Yeah, or that too. And then she is in his truck, in Buck's truck, because she steals the keys after she escapes the hospital. And she's like willing her atrophied legs to work again by telling her big toe just to work. I love that sequence. That whole sequence from Daryl Hannah to the toe, telling it to work, to getting out, to being able to drive out of the hospital. That is my favorite sequence of this entire movie. The blue leaf, House of Blue Leaves and the Crazy 88 and all that stuff. That's cool. But I feel like, to me, the set piece, the thing that I always remember from this movie is that whole sequence of her recovering and then being able to escape. I think that's the height of this film to me.
So I'm going to use two. I'm going to go low fruit first, and then I'm going to go higher fruit after that. I love, and I can't say her name, so hear me out. I love the actress that plays Gogo is in this. I had already seen Battle Royale at this point, which is another one that's like, oh, this is so original. I'm like, sure. But to me, like at the time, seeing her pop up in this movie, I was like, this fucker watches stuff still. He's not just like stuck in an era. Like he at the time, and I don't even know what she's really done past this movie, but at the time I'm like, you don't get that actress unless you saw a Battle Royale, and that's fucking cool that you did that. So I was really happy to see her pop up. And she's not just like a stupid character. Like she's a strong character. Granted, she, like most people who encounter Uma Thurman in this movie, they get fucked up, but she's entertaining. She's almost like a mini boss in the movie. Yeah. So she works really well for what she is. My favorite part of this movie, though, is the abrupt like music cuts mixed with the long panning camera shots. And you mentioned the House of Blue Leaf scene. Like that's probably the best place that you see it. Like you see it throughout kind of what you're talking about too, with the whole like coma to pussy wagon thing. But you see it really well in the House of Blue Leaves because it starts with this like obnoxious song that got like played to death because this movie was a huge hit. And then all of a sudden, like oh, get the music from House of Blue Leaves or whatever, because there's I don't even know what song it is, but you know it if you hear it.
The
It's
woohoo, woohoo.
That's the end of it.
Okay.
The
So
beginning of it is when all the yeah, right. So they cut in with that, with the whole da da dun dun da da dun as they're walking through and whatnot, being this like mob group. It might even start earlier than that because it starts with Uma like pulling away on that crotch rocket.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts to her like hanging out and hiding on top of in the rafters, I guess.
Yeah.
She comes down, they follow her to the bathroom. She follows Sophie in there again. These are all back like single shots. So they're all camera behind subject following them. The music changes as she goes from different parts of this restaurant, bar, whatever it is. You know, then you cut to the 5, 6, 7, 8s where you hear their first song and they play that. You hear was that Odd Lang or Odd Sang Lang or whatever?
Odd Lang Syne.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
You hear that. And she has her like Murder Rage song that plays. And then we cut to the Woohoo song where all of a sudden she hacks her arm off. And it almost like it still keeps going from there. Cause then you have this great, like very like tribal, but like either Japanese or Chinese tribal like song going with it. It's like heavy on drum beat while everyone comes down. It's very cinematic as they come downstairs. Just the way he wove all this shit together before going in this long like carnage scene. That's my favorite part of this movie is the way he moves the camera, the way everything looks, and the way the music cuts through each of these scenes. I'm using the House of Blue Leaves as an example, but he really does it from start to finish through the whole movie.
Yeah, and I think that if we're still staying on likes, I really, really briefly, I love the liberal use of the Wilhelm scream and how obvious it is in this movie. Yes.
Especially in the House of Blue Leaves.
Yes. So, I went back and actually was like doing research on the Wilhelm scream and everything. I know there's the Howie scream too, which is the Howie Long scream from Broken Arrow, I think. But yeah, Wilhelm scream. I heard the entire Wilhelm scream tape that was like, there's like several 5 or 6 screams, and they took the fourth one out of this thing. I think that's really funny. I really appreciate that. I really also I think my second favorite scene, it's funny that none of these are really like the action scenes so much. Like the hospital scene, there is some action, but the exchange in Okinawa at the sushi bar with Sonny Chiba, from the way that
so good.
It's so like playful at the start, the way that Uma Thurman walks in, it's almost like she's playing like a tourist, like kind of a ditzy tourist that doesn't really know, like, oh, I just ended up walking in this place. And it goes all the way up and her kind of confronting Sonny Chiba, who is like the sushi chef, who is Hattori Hanzo, who makes these incredible like samurai swords. And he was a person that outfitted, I don't know if he outfitted other assassins or whatnot with these different swords.
They don't really go into it.
Yeah, they don't really go into it.
He doesn't want to. He just says he doesn't want to make instruments of death.
Yeah,
so
he made a vow not to do this, and she visits this cafe, sees him. There's this whole banter back and forth with Chiba about her Japanese and how well she speaks. You know, he's like, you say arigato like a Japanese person, that, you know, and all this stuff. He's kind of flirting with her. It's playful. And it plays out in the movie as if she's just someone who's there visiting for like a little snack or like a, you know, a small meal or whatever. And it changes as soon as she kind of calls him out for being this sword maker. And he just kind of like ushers her up to the attic to show her these different swords. And it's like, yeah, these are all sentimental. They're just like symbolic. I can't let you have any of them. She's like, listen, I need you to make me a sword. It's because of one of your students who's wronged me, Bill. And he like he won't even say his name. He writes his name out on the window, and she's like, yeah, that's who it is. So I think that scene is really cool. It's an example of Tarantino doing, in my opinion, what he does best, which is dialogue, having these long sessions of banter back and forth where it's just fun to watch. It's not unlike a Kevin Smith, but I think Kevin Smith's thing is that the way that everyone delivers the lines are so robotic. It's like they're reading off the page. You can tell it's like Kevin Smith stopped the thing. He's like, no, the way you're supposed to say it is like this. Whereas with Tarantino, it feels so much more natural. And this is on display in this scene.
I have 2 comments there. With the Kevin Smith side, so on the one hand, I agree with you. The downside with Kevin Smith dialogue, it's so small scope. It's like the Kevin Smith dialogue is like, my girlfriend sucked 37 dicks, and somehow the entire scope of this movie is based around that.
His dialogue is all in the
dialogue,
immediacy of what's going on then. Whereas Tarantino, there's so much subtext underneath it.
And Tarantino's willing to let you kind of fill in the blanks while also giving you the blanks at the same time. He does it, frankly, better than Kevin Smith does.
Yes. I think we're in agreement.
The other thing I really like about this scene that we're talking about in particular, so she's going back and forth with Hattori Hanzo. He calls out the other guy who I feel like I've seen him in 100 movies too, but I don't know my name or anything. And they're having this little like, I'm the boss, you're the subordinate argument back and forth. And there's a moment where they kind of, I forget why their hands are locked, but they go over her head and she has this really like rhythmic like bounce under them. It's one of those things where it's like, although I already bitched about him for ripping off a bunch of, kung fu movies, I'm like, all right, that little rhythmic move under this like hand locker, I'm like, this guy did his homework. I can't be too pissed about that. But like that little head bob, I'm like, there's something about that just fits the genre so perfectly. And I mean, while we're on the subject of things that we like, I don't know how I feel about Uma Thurman as a whole, but I love her as the bride. I think she's great in this role. I think she carries it on well through the two movies. I know there's some shit that happened behind the scenes that's pretty not great for her. Looks worse for Tarantino because he, I guess, almost killed her. But whatever. That's a conversation for part 2. Stay tuned for next week. But her demeanor, her straight line, like, for vengeance, while also, like, doing pretty good at, like, minimalizing friendly fire, I guess. I think she nails this role. I really don't have too much negative to say about Uma Thurman, the actress playing this character in this movie. And considering that this essentially is a 4-hour movie, that feels like something to be, celebrated.
Well, I think she does a hell of a job for someone who's carrying, I mean, she's not carrying the film in the respect that everything else going around her is just shit and it's trash.
Sure.
But she is the focal point of this movie, like both movies.
For sure.
So
100%.
Yeah, for sure she carries it. Like, I don't have any complaints about her performance at all.
Do you have any negatives? I'm sure you do.
I do have a few. I have a couple. I'm not a big fan of the reuse of the nonlinear story gimmick that Tarantino uses in this. I don't know how I feel necessarily about the Oren Ishii anime like whole storyline that's in here. Like, I like anime. I watched anime before anime was cool. Like, when I tell you I watched anime before anime was cool, I did. And then I fell off of it very quickly once it started to become very mainstream because I can't keep track of all the different shit that's out now.
I don't like anime.
Yeah.
And that sequence is probably my least favorite sequence of the movie. That said, I appreciate in a movie that's already an hour and 50 minutes in this instance, it feels like a crash course to bring you up to speed for this character and how we got to where we are. And although I won't go as far to say I liked it, I feel like it served its purpose. I
think it's actually really, so these are dislikes, but I will say in the positive for it, I feel like it does a good job of filling in time to give you backstory on a character of Oren Ishii who you might not be able to fill in a live action thing, distilling all this information about this character in such a short time, while Uma Thurman, as I said earlier, the bride is learning is willing her big toe to move, right? Because it's like, you just got to move that big toe. And then it cuts to this whole scene, this whole storyline of Oren Ishii, how she became this huge assassin. And I think that's a really smart way to do it. I think that's a great way to do it. But I'm just, because it is so jarring thematically, it just doesn't fit with like the rest of the movie that they're telling, or the rest of the story that they're telling. So that for me, it's kind of like, it's probably my least favorite part of the movie. And I guess while we're on that, the other thing is, I think this is maybe a controversial hot take. I'm sure you don't care, but this may be for Kill Bill fans. I think the fight at the House of Blue Leaves with the Crazy 88 is a cool fight, but I don't like how long that is. I don't like the aesthetic of the gang. I think them wearing the masks is like very lame. Like it's the whole, like, not everybody wears a mask, but not everybody wears a mask, but those who do, I feel like it just feels, not that the rest of the movie is like this realistic, it's not like this.
Sure.
It's not realistic at all, but it adds this, it's just the cherry on top to make it more absurd than I feel like it already is. And to me, like everyone, the crazy, that scene goes on for entirely way too long.
Spoilers for everyone, but Sean's already heard this. This is how we ended up on this movie. I like part 2 more than part 1. And a big part of it is exactly what you're talking about. I like the House of Blue Leaf scene for the cinematography, for the music, for the way that the camera moves, the practical effects and lighting, all that type of shit. That's why I like that scene. But I agree with you. It feels almost hacky at times.
Yeah.
It goes on for fucking ever, which I guess supposedly at some point he said he wanted to make the most epic, like, action kung fu fight scene ever. I don't know if he achieved that or not. That's not my place to say. I don't run that kind of blog looking for that kind of clickbait. But I'm not going to go as far to say I agree with that criticism, but I 100% can see where you're coming from.
Cool. I have other dislikes too, but not many.
Keep going. I only have one. So,
well, the other thing,
it's more of a nitpick for me than I dislike.
The other thing for me is the whole, and I'm probably the only person in the world that has problems with it, but the yellow tracksuit. I mean, obviously it's an homage to Bruce Lee and Game of Death. And I think it's kind of my criticism of the movie in general is being a fan of these movies, of being a fan of 70s exploitation of martial arts films from the time period of spaghetti westerns, of all the different places where he took
right there with you,
took all the inspiration for all these things, samurai movies and everything else. It's not like a single thing that makes it feel this way, but I feel the yellow tracksuit is it's like piling on to the, I need to prove, like Tarantino in this movie feels like he has to prove that he knows about cinema or something. Like I realize that the whole movie is this play on the 70s and the genre, but it just feels hokey. Like it just feels over the top. It's too much. It's like there's no restraint shown to show that you know these movies, that you like these movies. It's just like, I'm going to throw everything that I can at this movie in this genre of like a martial arts film, but I'm going to throw all these other elements of it because we have the Western stuff with the Revenge and Bill and all that. And it just feels like it's piling on. Like it's too much for me personally. So it feels almost like you're besmirching the legacy of someone like a Bruce Lee because you're just throwing everything you can, the kitchen sink included, at the wall to see like, oh, what's going to stick in this movie?
I could see that. I guess I never thought of that because the yellow tracksuit for me, although I know Game of Death, Bruce Lee, yada, yada, I like it because it contrasts everything else in that scene well. And she looks, whether it's her stunt person or whatever, she looks good on that bike, zipping around, being an asshole in that. I like it aesthetically.
See, I don't think that her riding on the bike looks good either. It looks like,
I mean, that's fair.
It looks like a ride at Disney World where the cars don't come off the track because the way that the bike, it just moves so slow. It's like, dude, you should be just tearing ass. This thing's a badass bike. But you're going like 5 miles an hour.
I wasn't referring to that. I'm just saying aesthetically, like I like the contrast of the yellow suit to everything else that's going on. But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And your critique on the Bruce Lee thing, it's almost too nail on the head. For all the other movies that he pulls a lot from The Killer in this. He pulls a lot from a shit ton of movies in this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to spend another hour on this podcast just talking about all the shit that he pulled from for this. Because we could do that and I don't want to. But
yeah, same.
It feels too nail on the head. Like, it feels like it almost is like, I made this movie with all this shit for all these people who like kung fu movies to be like, oh my God, that's like this or that's like that. And then it's like he threw this bone in there for the people who only saw Bruce Lee. Because I feel like the majority of people who say they like kung fu at any fucking level, like isn't Bruce Lee kind of the starting point? Or maybe Jackie Chan or Jet Li or something like that, but Bruce Lee's pretty high up.
Yeah, for Western audiences, it's probably, you know, you're not going to watch Sammo Hung movies, you know.
This came out in 2003, so you're pointing this at people who grew up in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, where Bruce Lee would be the thing.
Maybe Jackie Chan, but
Maybe.
Bruce Lee probably. If I'm going to say anything's a negative on this, at the risk of having my head cut off for questioning it, I feel like Lucy Liu is almost like the definition of like studio plans. You have this crazy 88 squad, which has Vivica A. Fox, Daryl Hannah, and Michael Madsen. Forget David Carradine for the point of this argument. You have Tarantino regulars, Daryl Hannah, who's like industry legend. And then you have Lucy Liu, who's like, she was in Charlie's Angels. And if you look at Lucy Liu's like body of work outside of this movie,
What
it's
about
not
X
like
versus Sever?
she's exactly, which I think was after this, but still,
Probably.
if you look at Lucy Liu's body of work, and I don't even know if she's still acting. Like I can't think of anything that she's done relatively recently. I'm not going to go as far to say she's bad in this movie because she's not. She's there, but I don't, compared to what Michael Madsen brings in the next movie, what Daryl Hannah brings, what even Vivica A. Fox brings in the 5 minutes that she's in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Lucy Liu brings that same level of character that the rest of these do. And I don't want to throw out a bunch of random like Asian people and be like, this would be better. That feels like a whole different shitty thing to say.
Yeah.
But in comparison to the rest of the cast, she's not asked to do much and she doesn't deliver much.
Yeah, I just don't. I looked her up while we're talking. She's still in stuff. She was in Red One last year is probably the biggest thing that she's been in, but she's constantly worked.
Okay.
But she was in Shazam for whatever that's worth. But I don't like her in this movie either. I don't know what it is about her. Like, I feel like maybe it's her dialogue or something, or the way it's delivered or whatever. She just doesn't come across as like a badass
forced
to me. Yeah.
Feels forced.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree.
you said you had other dislikes. I really don't have any other dislikes. So whatever you want to unload it now and we can. Okay. So unless you got anything else you want to tack in, then let's go ahead and wrap up.
Then you're in for a big treat, bro. Because it's hot dog time.
I'll start this next week. Why don't you lead us off this week?
Perfect, because I haven't seen Kill Bill Volume 2 because I dislike this one so much I didn't actually see Part 2. So for me,
They're all one movie, Sean. Didn't you
I
listen
know
to
if
the
I would have seen,
To
if
Our
they
Lord
would
and
have
Savior?
released it initially like it was supposed to be one movie, I would have sat through the whole fucking thing and maybe I would like it. I don't know. I think for me, the biggest complaints on this movie is almost anything having to do with the Japanese portions of this movie. I know I do like the Okinawa scene in the sushi bar. I think that's very good, but like I think of the Crazy 88, the stuff in I don't know where the other city she goes to, but like after Okinawa. Well, she goes to Okinawa and she goes to somewhere else, and I don't know where it is, but I'm not a fan of all that stuff.
I don't remember it. Doesn't matter.
I don't know. I know Tarantino's paying
Texas.
homage to, we've talked about it ad nauseum. He's paying homage to 70s exploitation films, but to me, it comes across as just like try hard, like way too try hard. And this is probably my least liked Tarantino film, but I can appreciate it for being at least an entertaining movie from start to finish. My opinion on the two films, like as a whole, it might change after we talk about Part 2, because like I just said, I didn't even watch Part 2. After Part 1 came out, I didn't like it. I didn't even bother with Part 2. But right now, I will say Kill Bill Volume 1 is at least a half hot dog film from me. I think there are redeeming qualities if you haven't seen it before, if you're like a Tarantino fan, or even if you're not, maybe give it a chance and see what you think. I'm always much more inclined to say, like, don't necessarily listen to what I have to say, but like form your own opinion on it. For me, it's a half hot dog. If this would have been before we watched it this time, I would have been like, yeah, I'm never going to watch that again. But I do see redeeming qualities in Kill Bill Volume 1. So have a hot dog from me.
Whose hot dog is this, huh? Is it yours?
What are you laughing about?
I don't know how I can top your enthusiasm with that half a hot dog.
Yeah.
This is like a half a hot dog that like you took a bite off, threw on the floor, picked up. You're like, here's a half a hot
Well,
dog.
I mean, it's half a hot dog.
Want to eat it or
it's not
die?
the full thing. I didn't prepare this for you.
Well, I didn't. That's fine. For me, it is still a full hot dog. This movie, and we're going to get to it more next week, but this is the lesser of two Kill Bills for me. But I think it is absolutely required viewing if you're going to watch the second movie, which might go without saying. It's got a lot of things that are fun in it. It's got some shit in it, like the majority of Tarantino movies, that hasn't aged well. My biggest gripe with this movie really has to do with living through the hype of Kill Bill hysteria, which almost died off by the time Kill Bill 2 came out. I almost called him Kill Bull, but Kill Bill 2 was way more lax on the, like, there's no 5, 6, 7, 8. There's no House of Blue Leaves theme or whatever that got pumped into every football commercial for like a year fucking straight. You know, none of that happened. Again, if you like Tarantino dialogue, if you like Tarantino camera work, and you like Tarantino music, this movie has all that in spades and delivers on all that. I just think this movie is, for me, it's a setup for a better movie, which, again, sorry if you're hearing this in advance to next week, but it is the fastest slow burn of a 4-hour movie that you can get. It moves quick. It does all that shit like splatty and violently, and then it moves on to the better part. So it's a full hot dog, but a lot of that hinges on the assumption that you want to watch Kill Bill Volume 2.
Did you know that Kill Bill 2, Volume 2, grossed about $30 million less than the first one?
That doesn't surprise me, because I think, honestly, I think there's something to the hype around Kill Bill, because this one was the one with all of that. Like, you couldn't escape. This was like, we've talked about Freddy like that, how you couldn't escape Freddy for like 5 years there, where he was just, every ad was Freddy breakfast cereal, all that shit. This was the like most modern equivalent of that I can think of, minus Star Wars or Marvel or some other huge, I guess Freddy would be a huge IP, but some huge like modern,
a huge horror
franchise.
IP, but not in the grand scheme of like a Star Wars or a Marvel
or whatever. So I didn't know it was that much of a drop, but I'm not surprised that it grossed less. And quite frankly, too, I know what Kill Bill 2 is. So I think a lot of that probably has to do with, you know, when this came out. So that would have been 2004 when that came out. We still had a lot of people go see it in week one, the reviews come out, and then people decide to see it based off reviews. And I think that probably has something to do with it too. I'm not trying to scare you off of it. I don't think you care either.
I am so scared. I am not going to be on next week's episode. Sorry, John. My stomach hurts. I won't make it.
I'm just going to be talking to myself for an hour next week. If you want to listen to that, though, you can do that at our site. You can go to crap.town. That's where you can listen to me talk to myself ad nauseum. Maybe. All of our episodes are there. Old, new, indifferent, whatever. You can send us feedback there. If you say, hey, don't ever do two of the same movie back to back again, that's the place to send it. You can find us on social media. We're at Dewey Podmonster pretty much everywhere except Blue Sky, where we are at crap.town. And of course, we're proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find us there at yourunpodcast.com. While you're there, go check out someone else. Come to see us. Cool. Come to listen to us. We appreciate that. Go listen to Scott and Heather talk about true crime. You need to hear about
true crime,
the fucking true crime massive dildo stabber or something. I don't know.
Dang.
Whatever they're doing.
I need to
go
hear
listen
that.
to Boomer and Gab. Yeah, go listen to Boomer and Gabby talk about podcasts in the woods. Go listen to someone who is not us while you're there. Sean, what am I forgetting? I feel like I did that really quick.
Well,
until I got sidetracked on network shit.
Yeah, maybe you did. I was going to say, if you are interested in any of the things that we talked about on today's show, you can find a lot of them in the show notes. And I would say like 90% of that stuff is free overall, like over the 200 plus episodes that we've done. The stuff in the show notes, about 90%, that's pretty fair, is free. The stuff that isn't free is going to say, Amazon next to it. And if you click on that, you go to Amazon.com, you buy something. It doesn't have to be the movie we talked about. If you even just click the link and go buy tampons or toilet paper or something else that starts with a T, a small portion of that comes to us. That's a great way to support the show. Another great way to support the show is to go to your podcast platform of choice, leave a review, tell a friend, say, these guys talk about Kill Bill. You hate that movie. Why don't you listen to these guys? Because they don't like it either, except for John, who gives them the full hot dog because what the fuck does he know? You can go there and tell them that's
What
the
kind of
best
rating system is that?
Yeah, I know.
dogs?
Hot
Who
dogs. What the
thought
fuck
that?
is wrong with these guys? Who has a glowing hot dog behind them right now? I know it isn't that Sean guy. You can go and do all that stuff, and that gets people into the show. And that's the best way to support the show, is to get new people listening to the show, is to pull other people down into your misery with you and listen to the show with them. Or they can listen to it on their own. I don't really care. But yeah, other than that, you can find me on Blue Sky exclusively on social media. I am at internalbleeding.crap.town. I leave stupid clips of stupid movies up in my stupid feed. You're going to look at it in 6 months. And you're going to say, oh, this guy posts stuff still? Because I'll just post some random thing and you'll be like, unfollow. That's fine.
Well, that's all we got for this week. Happy New Year. We'll be back next week. We're going to finish up this amazing film saga of Kill Bill 1 and 2, or the whole bloody affair. Please come back and listen, or don't. If you didn't come back, tell us why. Whatever you want to do. We'll see you next week. Swill up, Butthorns. Happy New Year. Cheers.
Bird season's over, Butthorn.
Blah, blah, blah.